Good evening, everyone, for most of you. Good morning for some. Good afternoon for others. My name is Christian Karasevich, CEO and founder of socialchefs.com. And I wanted to welcome you to this week's episode of Social Chatter. We've got a great show for you this week. I'm going to bring on Nick Rishwain here, co-host of Social Chatter. And then we're going to have Nick introduce our guest. His name is Jim Hacking. But we've got a lot of fantastic topics to discuss with you this week regarding social media news. But without further ado, let's kick things off. Hey, Nick, how are you doing?
Doing well, Christian. How about you?
Doing fantastic. I'm really excited about tonight's show. We've got a lot of really great social media news topics. But I'm also really impressed with our guest this week. I mean, I know you had turned me on to Jim. You sent me some information on him. And I was like, you know what? I was like, we got to get him on the show because I think that he would be a fantastic guest. So I'm going to let you bring on our guest. Who is our guest? Jim Hacking. Tell me a little bit about
Jim Hacking. And Jim is an immigration lawyer in St. Louis, Missouri. And he's just been tearing it up on social recently. He had not just recently, but he's done really well with his YouTube channel, and it's brought him a lot of business. And there's a great story that I'll have Jim tell when he's oh, there he is. Hi, Jim.
Hi, guys.
Welcome tonight. And I'll tell you a little bit about, Bernard's over here in the comments saying that I got all dressed up for this because I'm wearing a collared shirt at 7 o'clock in the evening. So Jim Hacking is part of the hacking law practice. Jim's practiced law in the greater St. Louis area since 1997. Since 2007, his practice has been devoted almost exclusively to immigration law. He handles spouse and employment visas, citizenship, asylum, and deportation cases. Jim applies his litigation skills to his immigration practice, successfully litigating numerous cases involving naturalization and green card delays. Jim, welcome. Glad you're here. I was just about to get into the YouTube channel a little bit, but there was one story that was sort of is what when you posted the story of the lady who met you at the courthouse and was just thrilled because she knew you from your YouTube channel. It's not the first time this has happened, but it was just sort of an instance that was really a cool story that you told and shared on social and shared in the Legal Minds group that we participate in. Can you tell us a little bit about that situation
Sure.
and how that came to be?
Christian and Nick, thanks so much for having me on the show. Yeah, that was sort of a trip. That was about a month ago. I was down at the immigration office in St. Louis, and I went to get a bottle of water in the cafeteria. And as I was waiting to check out, there was a lady sitting out in the area where people sit, and she was smiling at me. She had a big smile, and then she waved me over. And I was like, this is interesting. And she said, "You're the guy from the immigration YouTube videos." And I said, "Yeah, that's me." And she said, "Look, I have you on my phone right here. I'm getting ready to go into my interview, and I was going over your questions of what to expect in a green card interview." So I quickly hopped down on one knee and took a selfie with her. And I asked her, about herself. She told me a little bit about her story, and I was really glad to meet her. And then when she got up, so I figured that she was not represented by an attorney, that she was just using my content because she was probably trying to do it on her own. But when we got upstairs, I noticed that she was represented by one of the attorneys in town. And so I just was sort of thrilled that people were using my content to get themselves ready, even when they had another attorney. So I think there's lots of little lessons there. I mean, some people were chiding me, well, why wasn't that your client? But that isn't really at all how I thought about it. I figured she just found me later, and I was just glad that she got something out of the video. I mean, I shoot the videos mostly because I get tired of answering the same question over and over, and it's just a real easy way to direct people to here or there. Right. And yeah, so that was a trip.
That was great. And there's been a couple of other instances where, because of your YouTube videos, giving away this information that's so vital for somebody who's, working on immigration, you've had people come from out of state to to you. There was one story that I know you just told us that you had a couple recent ones. There's one, didn't a guy drive through the evening or something and come with his whole life savings?
Well, I don't know his whole life savings, but he drove from Wichita and he was facing deportation, and he drove all the way, to see us, which is interesting because he had to go past Kansas City where the immigration court is to get to me. And so when I walked into the conference room, he sort of jumped up and he started shaking my hand. Mr. Jim, I watched all your videos. And, right now we're up to about 250 videos. And these are all homemade videos. We do them, and right now in my garage. We used to do them in a closet at the old office. And I just do it on a green screen. I splice in my my logo, and I have a little intro and outro that a guy in Pakistan puts on for me. And I was just looking at the stats before we got on because I wanted to tell you. So we've had our YouTube channel since August of 2012, and it says we have 279 videos. And so in the last 28 days, we had 46,534 views, and the watch time has been 110,492 minutes.
Wow.
That people have been watching the videos, and they had 452 likes last month and 352 shares, and 248 people subscribed to the channel in the last 28 days. So that's like 10 people a day. It just boggles my mind.
Jim, have you noticed, and not to be political at all, but have you noticed with a new administration, has the traffic to your YouTube, a new administration who's being tough on immigration, has your traffic to your YouTube channel gone up significantly?
I think it's a couple of things. That's definitely been a big piece of it, that people are paying a lot more attention to immigration. But I have a great intern. His name is Kent, and he's been with me for about 3 months now. And he's really been going through and optimizing the videos. He's put in some sort of big white words on, the thumbnails, and then he's organized them into playlists. So the crazy thing is, it wasn't on those stats that I just read you, but it's something like 40% of our YouTube views come from suggested videos. So the weird thing about putting my blue logo in the background is that it makes my videos stand out. So many lawyers just do them up against the law books or the wall in their office. And this was just totally by luck, that by putting my big blue logo on there, that if you're watching one of my videos and you see others in the YouTube stream, they just sort of pop out.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, that is. Yeah, yeah, we've got Mia Voss in the comments, a social media pro, asking if she can borrow your intern. Christian, any introductions? Christian's actually in a foreign country at the moment here. Do you need an immigration attorney, Christian, when you need to come back, or because we may just need to put you in touch with Jim at that point?
Actually, I need to borrow his intern as well. Actually,
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell him he's here setting up a buddy of mine's podcast, and he's also helping put together. We're doing I have a podcast for lawyers called Maximum Lawyer.
That's
and
right.
we're doing a big conference in May, and he's been doing a lot of the promotions of that. He's become quite in demand.
I bet it sounds like.
What's your podcast again, by the way?
It's called Maximum Lawyer.
Maximum Lawyer Podcast, yeah, and they're having their first conference this year in May. When is that? May
17th and 18th.
17th and 18th.
Right before you go to New Orleans, I think.
Right after New Orleans. Yeah. So I'll probably just fly over and hang out at your house for about 3 weeks and then stay there for.
do the show from here.
Yeah. So Christian, let's jump into our stories for tonight. We just got 4 quick stories for you. And one of these we tested out early this morning for me. But the first item we have up is Snapchat finally gives creators analytics. Snapchat, and this comes from TechCrunch, Snapchat has always been terrible at analytics, only showing daily story view counts that content creators had to screenshot just before they disappeared every 24 hours in order to prove their worth to sponsors. So as of this article, tens of thousands of creators who make official stories or have large followings will start seeing a slew of view count and demographic analytics on their Snapchat profile. And I haven't checked this yet, Christian. I meant to today, but I didn't get a chance to. So these new analytics include total story views in the past week, month, year, and year to date. Time spent viewing stories in minutes in the past week, month, and year to date. Daily unique story viewers, average time unique viewers spent watching, and completion rates. Audience demographics like gender breakdown, top age bracket, and top geographic regions. Audience interests like which lifestyle categories like film and TV, food, fashion, and sports their audiences care about. I mean, this is big, Christian. There's always been a problem with monetizing and being an influencer on Snapchat. And these new analytics could help creators show their total reach to secure sponsored content and product placement deals. They can also refine their posts to match their audience and compare their following to that on other platforms. So if you've got a huge reach, one of the examples this article gives is if you've got a huge reach and in the 25 to 34-year-old age range for males, truck company might be interested in targeting your audience. Those who like outdoors or business or something like that, they may want to feature their truck in such a person's story. So this does help this is good business for Snapchat, I think. I think it's another way for them to get ad dollars in the door, or at least keep those with large followings around, which they've had difficulty doing recently. What are your thoughts on this, Jim? Have you started Snapchat in your practice yet? Have you included it in your practice?
Snapchat to me was the hardest social media platform to adjust to and to figure out. And now with the new changes, it's really hard. It's like scrambled everything I knew. Like I was off it for a while. Right. I don't know if you guys, I saw this article because Christian sent out the topics for tonight. And I was thinking that it might be interesting to see the flip side of this. Like people with a true following on Snapchat might be really thrilled that there's analytics, but I was thinking there might be a lot of posers who act like they're influencers who are going to be smack dab right in the face with the fact that maybe they don't have as many subscribers as they thought they had or viewers that they thought they had. And these analytics might put to shame some people that have been acting as if they're big Snapchatters. The other thing, I don't know if you guys saw this, that one of the, what do you call them? One of the Kardashians.
Yes.
Their stock dropped 7%.
Yes, I did see that, and I was very displeased with her today, being a shareholder. I was not very happy with her tactic, or her lack of tact, if you will, on that. But I think that's something that will rebound eventually. But yeah, I think you make great points, and this has been a very difficult. It has been a very difficult transition for a lot of people. But I do think that this will eliminate some of those who have been creating this idea that they have huge followings. That not a difficult thing to do if you're showing a screen grab to maybe change the numbers in the views. Christian, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think this is going to be really important for businesses. There's a lot of stuff, by the way, at play here because we've got the whole the stock drop too. I think that's an important thing we should talk about here in a second. But I think from a business perspective, this is going to be huge for people that have been on Snapchat that have tried to work with a business who have said, hey, I want to know what's actually, what kind of numbers do you have? Because now all they have to do is say, well, hey, you know what? Instead of somebody going off of what they think are the right numbers, all the person has to do is go to this page, take a screenshot, for instance, of their insights and send it to somebody, and they have true numbers there to say, hey, this is my audience. So I know, for instance, deep down, this is my audience, but I also know the hard numbers, the ones that I can show my audience or the people, or sorry, not show my audience, but show potential, for instance, if I'm a social media manager, I could go to another business if I do channel management and say, hey, I can help you manage your Snapchat audience, or I can help you from an influencer perspective. These are my numbers. So I think from that perspective, it's really good. I'm glad that Snapchat is finally adding this because it hopefully will get people to come back to Snapchat and use it a lot more because I think that, there's a lot of value there. Now, a couple of things though that I think are important, you actually could probably combine your Snapchat analytics with the tool that we talked about last week, which was Story Heap. And that was something that we had, I don't know if I think we talked about that last week. And that was a way for you to.
That was one of the tools from last week, right?
Yeah, it was a tool to help you schedule your Instagram or your Snapchat and your Instagram stories, and it gave you a dashboard. So you could actually combine the two. You could take the current analytics that Snapchat's going to give you with your story analytics and see what's actually working from those two different perspectives. So I think that could be a really good use case for a business.
Excellent ideas here. And now I just tried locating my analytics here, and I don't seem to find them. I can still find my trophies, which I've never used. So I don't see my analytics, at least in the initial profile screen. I'm wondering if it's under settings somewhere that I can't see while I'm trying to do the show. I want to thank a few people for being here. Mia Voss, Hassan Sheikh. We've got Joanne Kroll, Mitch Jackson in the house tonight. We've got Mo was here earlier. He seems April. Thank you for being here. Mo seems to have disappeared. We'll give him a hard time about that tomorrow or next week. And Christian, let's move on to the one that we tested this morning, the one that Jim tested at I think 4:45 a.m. my time.
Sorry, Nick. It was 4:45 your time.
It wasn't about that time.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man! So this one, but this one I think is cool. And Jim, I think this is one that you may be able to use in your practice, or just talking with the family. So this is from Facebook's newsroom. We just made it easier to add more friends and family to your Messenger audio and video chats. And there's a little video in this post. So they're saying, let's say you're chatting with your mom on a video call in Messenger and you wish her a happy birthday and you want to add your sister and brother or other family members to join the fun. They made it really easy to do this. And the video shows it. I actually missed the call because I think I was texting Christian separately at the time. But in Messenger, you can chat with one person or a group of people. Currently, to turn a one-on-one video or audio chat into a group chat, you had to hang up, start a new conversation from your inbox, either by creating an entirely new message or by searching for an old one, and then turn that conversation into a call. But with this new feature, you can simply turn one-on-one video chat or voice call into a group call without having to interrupt the conversation. Actually, Mitch is here. Mitch, we should test this tomorrow. While in a video chat or on a voice call, tap the screen, select the add person icon, and then choose who you want to join. It's that easy. And of course, all your favorite filters and effects are still available. So this is like this is basically taking FaceTime and turning it into a group chat, or just a Messenger phone call into a group chat. So I think this is great, Christian. Did you have any success? Did Christian or I know I didn't answer today. Did you have any success testing this this morning or later on today, Jim? After you had awoken me from a slumber.
I don't think it was a true test. I just accidentally hit the camera button. I wanted to see how you set it up, and so the phone started ringing. I was like, "Oh crap!" because I knew you were sleeping.
Actually,
I think this is an interesting play. I mean, we're big Skype users at our office, and Mitch Jackson has gotten me onto Blue Jeans. You guys use Be Live, and then, of course, Facebook's now getting into this group video chat. Mitch told us, too, about Marco Polo a couple weeks ago, and so it really seems like there's a lot of money being poured into the sort of the video chat and video conferencing to make it easy with your phone with multiple people. I'm sure that the younger kids really probably have like 10 other ways to do this anyway. So I think it's an interesting play by Facebook, and I think they always want us in Facebook as much as they can. So I think it's a cool feature.
Yeah, I like this feature a lot. And Christian, it's one of those things. Remember when we were moving the show around, whatever that was, 15 months ago now, we wanted Facebook to come up with something similar to the old Blab platform where you had the same size people or same size screens for everybody. And we finally found Be Live, which allows us to do that, but we couldn't find anything. And it looks like in Messenger, you will now have this ability, but it will be on, it appears to be only mobile so far. You'll have this ability to have 3 or 4 people in a call all at the same time. But I'm thinking, you know, in the Legal Minds group, if we wanted to just quick jump on and chat with each other about some project that we're working on, we were going to do one of those collaborative blog posts, or we want to put on a webinar with a group of us or something like that. This is just an easy way. Hey, I'll just call Jim and Mitch and we'll just go on a call that way rather than having to fire up Blue Jeans or another platform. Christian, what are your thoughts on this?
Go ahead, Jim. Jim, what were you saying?
I was just saying, especially if we're in the middle of texting each other and then we want to switch to talking, that's where the ease would really come in. Sorry, Christian.
It makes it very easy to switch over. That's for sure. Christian?
I think that these give people lots of options. I mean, you really have to look at who you communicate with and where you communicate with that audience at. For example, I use more Facebook Messenger to contact people. Like this past week, I had to get a hold of somebody, and they started the conversation on Facebook Messenger. So I said, so I initially thought, well, okay, let me get a hold of that person on Facebook Messenger rather than let me ask them on Facebook Messenger, what's your phone number, and try to use, for instance, FaceTime, or what's your Skype ID, or wait to send somebody a connection request. So you've got different tools for different options. Now, I think overall, I find that using Facebook Messenger is very, very, very easy for calls. I think to me, one of the biggest challenges is people sometimes don't necessarily use the calling feature. They use it just for a chat platform. And I'm glad that Facebook is adding this. And I will say the quality is phenomenal. I mean, it's easy to be able to just, as long as the person's put their phone number in on Facebook, I can get a hold of you. I mean, it's amazing. So Facebook Messenger, not just a tool for chatting. Now you can have, video or audio calls. And by the way, here's another little tip for everybody. If you are using your iOS device at the moment, if you've got an iOS device and you want to have a call with somebody, you can use the screen recording option. And again, I don't know, from a legal standpoint, you guys may want to advise on this a little bit, but I know that you can record your screen, for instance, if you're having a group chat with somebody, for instance, and you could repost that on a channel if you want to. And I'll actually give you guys a link here for that. But yeah, so I think this is a very useful feature for businesses.
Yeah, I think this is, I am going to add on to what you said about Messenger. I think, Jim, when we first got connected, we emailed a couple of times. But then once we connected through Messenger, I think anytime you and I talk about anything anymore, Jim, if it's not face-to-face through digital, I think it's almost always through Messenger.
Yeah, and I think Christian's point is well taken too. I mean, I have a buddy, Seth Price, who's in our group, who he likes to call me on Facebook audio. And when he does, I sort of jump back. It's a different ring and it sort of freaks me out. So I think there will be some adjustment for it for people to get used to. The other thing is, I'm just about done with this Elon Musk biography, which I'm really enjoying. And as I read that book and as I see all these new platforms and everything, I keep thinking about that Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report, where he was in the kitchen moving things around and all the images and everything. And I think we're headed to some really cool things. And I think that all these little, being able to talk to people, even like we're doing right now, to think that we could do this 5 years ago. I mean, we would have to pay probably $1,000 a month to do what we're doing right now for free.
In the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar sort of platform, or occasionally we might be able to pull it off with Skype. But right. Even Christian and I tested Skype, and it has been less. For video, we had a lot of difficulties with Skype, right, Christian? I mean, it's not real stable. Let's jump into our next story for this evening. Third story. This is from Facebook's newsroom as well. They're making it easier for organizations and businesses to help people during a crisis. I think this is a great ad, a great addition to Facebook. They're announcing that organizations and businesses can post in what is called community help, so that they can provide critical information and services for people to get the help they need in a crisis. We're beginning to roll out the feature to pages for organizations and businesses like Direct Relief, Lyft, Chase, Feeding America, International Medical Corps, the California Department of Forestry and Fire, Save the Children, and they'll make the feature available to more in the coming weeks. Enabling organizations and businesses to post in the community help section will give them a new way to reach communities impacted by crises. For example, they might post about helping people find everything from free transportation to supplies and connecting volunteers with organizations that need help. Over the past year, people turned to the community help section for more than 500 different crises. Some of the crises where people used this community help feature the most in 2017 included the flooding in Brazil in May, Hurricane Harvey in the U.S. in August, the attack in Barcelona in August, and flooding in Mumbai, and also the earthquake in central Mexico last September. I think this is great. This is a great way for businesses to do what is often referred to as social good. So if you're a restaurant who's offering some free meals to people during a crisis, I think that this is great. One thing where I thought that this may be very helpful, during Hurricane Harvey, we had a friend down in Houston, and she had some difficulty, and she was going to start dealing with the claims process with the insurance. And I reached out to a lawyer I knew down in Texas. That lawyer reached out to somebody else that he knew who could help with the insurance claims process. And so it was still rather speedy, but we might be able to offer more through this community help feature. Jim, where I see this, remember when the lawyers were setting up shop at airports? This might have been one of those instances where community help could have come in to let people know, hey, I'm at JFK right now during the immigration. People were having trouble emigrating to the U.S. or being stuck in airports. This is maybe one of those places where you immigration attorneys could show up and offer services through this type of a platform.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was thinking about you guys out in California, to being able to crowdsource information in real time, like with Jennifer's horses. If the flames were getting from the fires were getting close to the ranch, the ability to be able to know and have eyes on the ground and to crowdsource that information from the general public. And then if there's organizations or businesses that you can put on top of that, I think that's all going to be great.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way for businesses to do some good rather than necessarily sell their service to somebody, but to actually show that they care about their community. I think this is one of those things that would be very beneficial for that. Christian, what are your thoughts?
So I think from a business purpose, this is something that we've actually kind of talked about a little bit over the past few weeks. I think we talked about this last week about how a business could volunteer in certain situations or give back or go back to, if there's some sort of crises going on, that they could go and help out people and do it, just from an honest perspective. Don't do it from a monetary perspective. So I'm glad that Facebook is actually rolling this out. And hopefully businesses will see this as an opportunity to do some social good, as you mentioned, but also, to do it to give from their heart, to help somebody, because you never know if you're going to be in that same situation. And here's what would end up, we talked about it from the perspective of, if there was a situation going on in your business, for instance, let's say you offered a tow truck company, and say there was a big, accident based on, blizzard or something, go there and offer, your services for free, whether it's helping people that have been affected by that incident. Maybe it's, damage to a vehicle, or help tow cars out or whatever. I mean, chances are you're going to get featured, here's some of the good that can come out of that. Somebody, all you have to do is go up and say, hey, you know what? Hey, I'm so-and-so from whatever business, so introduce yourself. That's one way to get some exposure. But two, you also can gain some additional exposure by, just being there. And then three, chances are a news station is going to be there covering it, and they're going to probably say, they might even want to interview you for their show, the news show, just to bring you on and, and introduce you. And don't just do it talk about it from a positive perspective. Hey, I came down here because, I've been in this situation. I know how hard it is to get out of a blizzard if you get stuck in that, or I know what it's like because I've been displaced by, a wildfire, for instance, or some other situation. So
we've got Dr. Chithra Durgam with us here tonight, who's done some great dental work for veterans on and around Veterans Day. And I'm thinking that this may be one of those things where she might be able to offer some services for aesthetic dental that, in a certain situation, she could offer some dental services. And like you said, you're doing it for good, but there's when you do those good things, you never know what's going to happen, and your business could end up featured in the local news story, or just the photos that you take and you post about what you've been up to, and there you are on social media. So it's I think this is another good move by Facebook. Our last story for tonight, before we jump into a couple of tools, is Instagram Direct one-ups Snapchat with replay privacy controls. This comes also from TechCrunch. So messaging is the heart of Snapchat. So after cloning and augmenting stories, Instagram is hoping to boost intimate usage of Direct, or their Instagram's version of direct messaging, with privacy controls that aren't found elsewhere. So now when you send a photo or a video from Instagram Direct, you can decide whether recipients can only view it once, replay it temporarily, or see a permanent thumbnail of it in the chat log. Previously, all messages could be replayed temporarily, but then would completely disappear, which is the Snapchat way. Snapchat always lets you temporarily replay a photo or video message, with no way for senders to deactivate the option. So the replay controls could encourage Instagrammers to send more sensitive imagery by allowing them to prevent replays that can give people time to take a photo or a screenshot or a photo with another camera or screenshot it. And whether it's silly or sexy, some messages are only meant to be seen once. Meanwhile, non-sensitive messages can be set to permanent, so it's easy to look back and reminisce or prevent a conversation from losing context if someone forgets or misses what was in a visual message. I think this is a good move. I'm really surprised that Snapchat hasn't done this yet, given a little bit more privacy control to the sender of a disappearing message. And I think this is an interesting move. I think this will encourage people to send some more intimate imagery or video. And I'm not sure that's good, because some people tend to send things to the wrong person. So I think that's something to be aware of. But anything that improves privacy settings on social media, I think, is good. Jim, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's interesting. I think it's more evidence of Instagram just sort of copying wholesale Snapchat and trying to, really eat up that market of the instant messages that disappear, and then they're tweaking it a little bit. I think you're right that it's surprising that Snapchat hasn't done this. But, my kids, they get really mad when they think other people are copying other people's products. Like when we go to Trader Joe's and they see JoJo's cookies, they think, man, it just seems to me like Instagram gets closer and closer to Snapchat all the time. And at some point you'd think that people might start litigating, just how similar they've become. And I think Instagram is really going for the core of what Snapchat is, and that's the short, quick messages.
There seem to be a lot of competition in that area. And it's funny that you say litigation, because I expected that long ago when the Instagram CEO claimed that they basically copied Snapchat. He said it. I think it was in a TechCrunch story, Christian, if I'm not mistaken. He said, yeah, well, Snapchat was right on the stories thing, and we just went ahead and copied that. And I thought, well, okay, well, I can't believe there's nobody suing over this yet, but we'll see if that develops later on. Christian, what are your thoughts on this?
I will say I do agree. I've been waiting for somebody to come out and say, you know what, Instagram, stop ripping off all of our features. I just wonder, is it like something where maybe that's something that you can't necessarily patent or trademark?
Yeah.
but not really sure. So, but I think overall, I'm glad that they're finally coming out with this. I mean, the whole big thing has been on stories, and you and I were talking about this right before the show. But everybody wants you to produce stories, but at the same time, they want you to, you need to be selective about what you share and what you send and what you allow people to replay. Because if, for instance, and this doesn't just apply to like your social media channels, it also applies to your blog. It also applies to repurposing content. If you want to, allow somebody to replay all of your content, then where's the urgency in getting them to tune into it? And so that's something you kind of have to keep in mind about what you're sharing. You want to make sure that some of your content is always going to have a replay, but some of the content might just be selective. It might just be like, like you could, if you wanted to, maybe you could do like a game out of it, essentially. Make your social media fun, where you do some sort of game, and maybe like every certain day at a certain time, you have a certain, in this case, message that goes out that only has limited replay on it. And, maybe like, for instance, you can make like a scavenger hunt or something, from a contest perspective, make like, scavenger hunt where people can see, in this case, they can see something that you share privately, for just a limited amount of time. If they miss it, then, they have to work harder, for instance, to figure out the puzzle. That could be a good way to get the word out about your business and make it, fun at the same time.
Yeah, so, I really like that idea. Make it, this is time is of the essence type of thing. Go check this out before it disappears. I think that's a good way to do it. But you also don't want to get too spammy with that type of behavior.
Right. Just it's one of those things where you use it selectively. You don't have to use it
selectively. Absolutely. All right, Christian. How about a couple of tools before we wrap it up? Because I know the three of us are up past our bedtimes at this point.
Okay, so let's talk about some tools real quick. So I've got 2 tools for everybody this week. The first tool is a tool called. Let me actually get this pulled up. Let's see. So the first tool is called Audiogram, and this is actually our buddy Vincent sent this to me, and I will say it's a really, really, really slick tool. Audiogram, basically what it does is it allows you to turn, and you can do this with video, audio, whatever, but it basically allows you to turn your audio into an engaging social video. That's their tagline, and it's actually really neat. So tool number 1 is Audiogram. And I'm going to give you guys a link to this, but what it does, I'm going to try to give you an example here, actually. So Audiogram, let me find a good one, actually. So are you guys familiar with like Grammar Girl?
No.
Okay. Well, so Grammar Girl, it was a podcast essentially. And Jim, you might find this very useful, actually. It's a podcast, and what it basically would let you do is take a piece of it and share it in a really neat social form. So it's got like some, in this case, they're showing, for instance, our native speakers from a language that uses, take and what does it say? Can't read the take and R. I think it's taking some like text out of it. But when you play it, it's essentially a video that has a little bit of audio. So it's like a little way to tease people to tune into the content. Let me actually get a link to this for you guys. So this is the actual full video on their Facebook page. I think that worked. And then let me actually and what theirs does is it has some text that then goes to a link, but it's very creative. So it's something worth checking out. And you can actually check this on the homepage of Audiogram. If you go there and scroll down, it says you're in good company. There's a San Diego Chargers feature, and there's also the Grammar Girl one, but that's Audiogram. And it's free and paid. The free one lets you create up to 2 audiograms per month with social post roll, transcribed captions. And if you go on and get into white labeling, it's $19 a month.
I think I've seen Nicole Abood, Jim, use something similar to this on her Instagram.
Yeah,
so she'll post little audio clips of her podcasts on Instagram. And I keep meaning to ask her what program she uses to do that. And this looks very similar to maybe what she's using to do that. This is a cool idea. This might go hand in hand with your new I Migrate show.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
And here's the thing: like this is another tool to be able to make it easy for you as a business to create engaging content that's going to get your audience to check it out. So it's not just, let me share a link to the article. In this case, it's a short video it still has a link to a blog post, for instance, or a podcast or whatever you want to link to. But it's a way to engage your audience more. And this would be perfect for Instagram. Works on Snapchat. Let's see, it works on LinkedIn, like Twitter, Facebook. You can use this pretty much anywhere.
I'm gonna message Nicole in the and see if this is what she uses for Instagram.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to pull up the second tool. The second tool, and Jim, I picked this tool for the week, and I picked it, kind of with you in mind as well. Like you talked about, your story about being able to have people look at your YouTube channel, for different, to get the information they need as an immigration attorney to help them, right? And so when people are creating content, I'm sure you probably, maybe you probably sat down and said, well, what are the most common questions that people ask me? Or what are the most common questions that I see people needing help with? And so what this tool is, it's called Typeform, and it's essentially a survey and forms tool, but it's a way, for instance, as a business, like I said, you probably might, maybe you need some ideas for different topics, but what it does is it lets you create forms, lets you create surveys quickly. These are interactive surveys to be able to find out, for instance, information from your customer to get data from them. So it could be, for instance, maybe, in your case, say you did a YouTube video, you could create a form in Typeform. And then what you would do with it is maybe you go ask your audience at the end of your video, hey guys, if you have any, feedback about the show, this could be something that they could go and, they could go answer your survey. Alternatively, I could also see this being useful, maybe at the end of your video, if you tell people, if you have topics or suggestion, if you have specific topics, you could use this as a way to constantly build up your list of topics to be able to create content for.
That's great, Christian. We use Typeform in our office right now for our intake. So when people schedule an appointment with us, they get an automated email that invites them to fill out sort of all their background information on Typeform. We also have a little iPad in the office that if they haven't filled it out ahead of time, then we have them fill it out while they're sitting there in the office. And so that video or that Typeform is what we've used it for so far. We use a Zapier to connect it to our Infusionsoft account, so it propagates all their information. My buddy Kelsey Bratcher set that up for me. He's the king of Zapier, so he might be someone you guys might want to have on the show. He's like a Zapier ninja. He connects all kinds of stuff. But Typeform has been really good for us, but I haven't thought of using it for asking for content ideas. One thing we do use is SpeakPipe. We have SpeakPipe on our website and SpeakPipe for this other podcast that I have, Immigration Answers Show, and that's been fun getting audio questions that we've used. But Typeform would be a good choice for us too, it sounds like.
Is that awesome. SpeakPipe? Didn't you just do an explainer for that SpeakPipe or something? Did I see that on Facebook this week, Jim?
Yeah, you retweeted it. It's one that's sort of in our Meet Edgar that goes out from time to time, but basically it sort of walks people through how to ask us a question.
Yeah, and I thought that was real handy. Christian, I think you've used that SpeakPipe before, right?
Yeah, actually, we use it at Social Chefs. Yeah. Yeah,
you do. Okay. Yeah, excellent tools. And I want to thank Tamara McCormick, Mitch Jackson, Hassan Sheikh, Cassie Mendez, Mia Voss, Joanne Kroll. We've had, I want to thank Mo, Lilienthal, Bernard Nomberg. We had a great group of folks here tonight. Have not heard back from Nicole yet to see if she's using that audiogram, but let everybody know in the show notes. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Jim, tell everybody how they can find you on social media and online.
Sure. So Twitter at Jim Hacking, Facebook Jim Hacking. We have a Facebook group which has about 600 members in it for immigration-related stuff called Immigrant Home. If you do a search on Facebook for Immigrant Home, you can find me on YouTube just by searching Jim Hacking. Our website is hackinglawpractice.com. And then I have the Maximum Lawyer podcast with Tyson Mutrix, my buddy, and then our friend from Legal Minds, Carol Williams, and I have just started a new immigration-related show called I Migrate. So we're excited about that. I've said, and Mitch has said oftentimes, that we're lawyers trapped in, or that we are media content creators trapped in lawyers' bodies, and I feel that way. My wife sometimes, though. There was a day, Nick, where I did
I remember this day.
I did a show with Carol. I think I was on with you. I was on Legal Minds, and my wife, whose office is right next to mine, came into me and she said, "What do you do all day?" We're lawyers.
Yeah.
We're lawyers, but I'm having fun.
Yeah. It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. I know Nabil will look at me sometimes like, "What are you doing on another video chat?" Networking for the company.
That's right.
So
sure.
So that's it, guys. Make sure to catch up with Jim on the Maximum Lawyer podcast. Check out hackinglawpractice.com. Connect with him on social media. Christian, any last thoughts? I think our guest for next week is to be determined.
Yes, we had a couple of scheduling conflicts. So yeah, next week's guest to be determined. But we will be back here 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week.
And there will be a blog post tomorrow.
Yes, we'll have a blog post tomorrow. And also, we have some topics we didn't discuss tonight. One of those in particular is something called Facebook 3D posts. So this is actually good. It's a very interesting topic, but we've got that, and we've got some Twitter changes also going out as well. They're changing up, how they're doing things on the desktop, at least for Mac right now. But that'll all be at a blog post recap that goes out tomorrow, so in a few hours. So
excellent. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Jim, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was a real blast. Anytime.
Thanks. We'll look forward to having you back in the future, and I'll see you next Tuesday.
All right. See you,
fellas.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye.